This is going to be an in-depth review of the toy I've got in front of me here, which is the Aussiemate Audible Flashcard learning device from Sensory Toys Australia. I'll run through how I got onto them in the first place, the actual purchase experience down to customer service and shipping, and after that I'll go through a few talking points about the toy itself. I'm not a Montessori expert and I'm not strictly Montessori, but I do try and follow a few general principles because I think they make a lot of sense, and I'm a big fan of Dr. Montessori's approach. So this product came across my Instagram stories, I believe. They have ads in between stories, as many of you may know, and if you're a parent with small children, they know, so they'll target you. And this particular company targeted me, and it worked. I clicked straight through and purchased it right away, essentially as soon as I saw the ad, which is pretty out of character for me. I try not to buy impulsively, but I was quite excited, and the reason I was excited is because this particular product, the premise being you put the flashcard in and it says the word. It says the words in Australian accents. That is something that is quite rare. A lot of the toys on the market are very US centric. They'll have American accents, and it's lovely that we occasionally get a look in, so I was quite excited and I wanted to support the cause. And I think from a language development perspective and a learning perspective, it's fantastic for kids to be able to learn in their native accent, if you like. And Australian English also has a few different words for things too, like instead of a closet, it's a wardrobe, for example. So the thought of an Australian version of any product is pretty exciting, but especially something like this. So I purchased it. The whole process was frictionless, as it tends to be these days. It was very easy to part with my cash. I picked this option, which is the expansion pack option. There's two tiers. There's this one being the highest, and the lowest is kind of the more basic pack that has, I believe, 250 cards. And they price it in such a way that you feel as though to justify like kind of buying it at all, you may as well get the extension pack. They did an interesting price anchoring technique on the website where they had, I believe it was 160, then they had it crossed out, and then they had, but only $79.95. So I thought, oh, fantastic, that's a really good discount. And I might circle back to that a little bit later. But essentially, I clicked through, and this was all on the 27th of October. So I purchased it on that date. 4 days later, it hadn't shipped, which is pretty unusual for an Australian company. And part of the benefit of buying from Australian companies as an Australian is typically you get the products quickly, which is not always the case with international products, because there is logistically just that distance and sometimes extra cost and stuff. So I was a bit confused. I emailed them and I got a really polite professional response saying that this toy was so popular that they'd completely sold out and they didn't know when the next shipment would be coming in. That's fine, but in an ideal scenario, they probably should have said that on the website, that it's essentially a product that's on back order. So yeah, expectation management was a little bit lacking, but not a big deal. Let that one go. They appear to be a small business that is just doing the best they can. So they said they'd give me an update when it was coming, and I didn't hear anything further. It just arrived on my doorstep today, which is the 14th of November. So it was a pretty long wait for something that is supposed to be, Australian. Anyway, doesn't matter too much, I guess. So it arrived, and as you can see, the package has seen better days. And I think it's hard to know, but essentially this wasn't within anything else aside from a piece of plastic, like a very thin plastic satchel. So even if the courier, which was Aramex, which it's not the greatest courier, but even if Aramex was really gentle and careful, there's not really much protection. So from a packaging perspective, the feedback I'd give them is to do it as a box within a box, just so you don't have this issue of this being damaged, because this itself holds all the cards and the idea is that you keep it. So just another little thing that maybe could be improved for next time. what you get are the cards and the device and a charging cable. It's one of these standard DC 5 volt charging cables. So the one they give you is really, really short. And if you have a PowerPoint that's not kind of low to the ground so that you could rest it down, it would be kind of impractical to just have it dangling there. So I'm sure you'll have the same charging cable just laying around at home, but a longer version. Just a small thing to note. As soon as I pulled this out of the box and touched it, it felt like a puff of air. This plastic is so light, which unfortunately gives it a bit of a cheap, flimsy feeling, which, you know, given that they'd sort of pitched it as this premium product, I was a little disappointed. It even says here, price aside, it even says here premium quality guaranteed. But just because something is light doesn't necessarily mean it's poor quality, but I guess it didn't have maybe the weight or the nice hand feel I'd expect a product at this price to have. Anyway, so it's a pretty simple bit of gear. I'll show you what happens when you just flick the on switch here.
Hello, nice to meet you. Let's play.
So the next step is to insert a card. The cards, again, when you first touch them, they're pretty thin. Like, I'd say they're less coated than your average playing card, which for something that's going to be manhandled by toddlers and pulled in and out of this is not super encouraging. And having given them a road test with my toddler this afternoon, I can confirm that they were bent and the sides were damaged immediately. So I don't know how long they'll hold up, and it does mean I have to sort of monitor if I don't want them to just all be destroyed. So just another thing, I think maybe in the next variation of this one they might want to improve. Anyway, I'll show you a demo now. So listen out for the audio quality. Noting, of course, this is going to be a recording within a recording, but I'll do my best to give you an idea.
Piano.
I'll swap sides.
Drums.
There's a repeat button here which you can press if you want to hear the card again without needing to pull it in and out, which is sensible. It minimises wear and tear. But my son, who's 19 months, really enjoyed the process of just pulling it in and out to make it go, which it's a novelty, of course, so that's fine. And there's a volume adjustment button too. The loudest volume, in my opinion, is pretty loud. At this point, I'm going to interject with this strange little thing that we found by accident that I don't believe was listed anywhere, like in the little booklet it came with, which was very, very brief, by the way. It just basically had a line drawing and some general information about how to turn it on. But yeah, if you press this and hold it at any volume level, this awful tinny ABC track comes on out of nowhere, and it's in an American accent. I just sort of think, oh gosh, you've gone to all this trouble to take what I think is probably some sort of mass-produced or drop-shipped product. You've gone to the trouble to modify it and make it Australian and draw up these cards and everything, but this strange little Easter egg is still programmed into it. Anyway, my son found that and he loved it, and I'll be honest, it was pretty awful and made me want to throw the whole thing out the window. So if you do go ahead and buy this, just be aware of that and hope that it's not discovered by the child you're giving it to. Anyway, back to the audio quality. I don't think it's excellent, but again, when I feel this, it's probably the audio quality I would expect to come out of something that feels of this quality, which is not amazing. It's not terrible, but it's not great. So that's another thing to bear in mind when you're in a market competing with other things like the Tony box or the Yoto player. You just don't expect it to be similar to that at all. That's what I'm saying. But again, I'm happy that it had to make a degree of sacrifice on that stuff, because I love to support the concept of this one being Australian based and support a small business, etc. As far as the flashcards go, I feel as though there's a pretty good spread of categories, things that would actually come up in everyday life, like they're not kind of strange, obscure words. they appear to be sort of oriented around being culturally accurate too, right down to the police car being an Australian police car and things like that, and having the what I believe is the correct police car siren. So that attention to detail was really nice. I could go on and on about this, but I think circling back
I will go to rest. Bye-bye.
Okay, it said, I will go to rest, bye-bye. So it has a battery conservation mode, which is excellent given that, you know, it's going to be lying around and being tossed around by toddlers, etc. And, you know, if you're anything like me, you'll forget about it and not be diligent to turn it off. So it won't run flat as much, I assume. Look, would I buy this again? Probably not. I hate to say it. I just think it's a little... The concept is so fantastic and I'm so on board with it, but the execution lets it down, unfortunately. I think it feels more like a rough prototype of the product that hasn't actually been road tested with toddlers who are, you know, they're learning their fine motor and they are a bit rough with things. So these cards are not going to last. Like if I left them out and just let them, you know, be played with organically, I think they'd just all be just kind of destroyed within a week. And look, I don't know how destroyed they would need to be for them not to function anymore, but yeah, as a general rule, I think it's probably better if they were just a little bit tougher given the market or the audience rather that you're going to be using them with, the intended consumer. So that's one consideration. The other thing is that I did part with $79.95 AUD, which, as I said at the beginning, I believe it's not a small amount of money. And in this climate, you do need to think about, okay, well, from an opportunity cost perspective, I could potentially put that towards something like a competing product like a Yoto Player or a Tony. The only thing is, though, that those products I don't think have many Australian accent options in them. So, yeah. Look, I don't want to just sit here and flame this small business. I think it's a lovely concept, a lovely idea, but the execution let it down. And I'd be lying if I said I thought this was a premium product like they've said it is. It honestly feels like something I could probably get on Amazon or Temu. Unfortunately, I hate to say it. Not that there's anything wrong with those places. It's just more that, you know, if I bought from an Australian company and I've paid $80 for something, I think I just didn't feel as though I got my money's worth on this one. So, but you may feel differently. And as far as engagement goes, kids will engage with toys differently over time. And my son really wasn't that interested in this one beyond playing that awful ABC sound that he managed to, that awful ABC track he managed to find in the American accent, which is funny given the whole purpose of me buying it being to expose him to Australian language development. Anyway, and just to quickly touch on Montessori principles, I'd say if on the scale of completely passive toy to completely active toy, it's probably somewhere in the middle. In that, in order to make it do something, you have to interact with it first by putting the card in. But it does say the word back at you, which is, you know, obviously that's the passive element to it. But I think as far as a reinforcement tool for language development, it could be really useful. So if they just sit there putting the cards in and out, they're still getting that exposure to the words over and over again. So look, and there's no harm in that at all. That's a good thing. So I'll wrap up the review here, but if you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. Noting this is my first time doing a review of a product here on YouTube, so open to constructive criticism. The editing's not anything fancy or wonderful, but maybe over time that will improve. But the detail and the information is here, and if I was to give it a star rating, I'd probably give it a 2 out of 5 at the end of the day. Okay, thanks for watching.